Hey guys, welcome back to the tennis vlog for another preview and predictions video. I think the first preview and predictions video this year that's happened outside of a major. It's become a little bit of a tradition in the past few years that I predict a random Masters 1000 final. I think I did the Paris Masters last year, Shanghai maybe the year before, but it is the final Masters 1000 event of the year. The Paris Masters, second tournament in Paris within a few weeks, thanks to Roland Garros having changed dates because of the current situation. And this final is between the number 3 seed Daniil Medvedev and the number 4 seed Alexander Zverev, both of whom are in really great form at present. I didn't really have an excuse not to film this video. You know, I hate making predictions, but I've dipped in and out of matches this week. Usually during a big event, I would be sat there and I'd watch matches solid. At this point, I'd have watched at least a handful of matches for each player and have in-depth insight on them. I've dipped in and out of matches, but I have enough to do a preview and predictions video, so can't really avoid it. And this has the potential to be a really good clash. Also, actually, the more I think about it, the more hard it is to predict, which isn't helpful. I did have an instinct as to where I was going coming into this, but the more I've thought about it, the more they kind of balance each other out. So it's going to be a very interesting one to preview and a very interesting one to see how it plays out. Now, if you're watching live, please let me know if you can hear me. We had some mad disaster, horrific sound issues the last time that I tried to film, which is why I haven't been back for a while. So let me know that you can hear me, and we will get going by looking at the paths of these two players to the final, having a think about how it might play out between them in the final, and eventually who's the more likely to come out on top. So let's start with Alexander Zverev, who is the lower ranked of these two. He's the number 4 seed at this tournament and just took out the top seed in Rafael Nadal. So coming in with some momentum, and especially so given that he'd won the last 2 tournaments he'd played coming into this. He has not lost on indoor hard courts this season. He hasn't lost since the French Open, where he was actually ill when he went out to Yannick Sinner. So it's been quite the run of form for Zverev recently. He's riding that wave of confidence by the looks of it. And we've seen some top stuff from him in Paris so far. It was an emphatic start in round 1 against Miomir Kecmanovic. Kecmanovic, I really struggle to pronounce that name. I don't know. 6-2, 6-2 for Zverev. A notable stat from that match is he actually hit more winners in the match in the 30s than Kecmanovic won points in the whole match. So we saw a really aggressive Zverev there up on top of the baseline, taking the game to his opponent, which was good to see from his perspective, because Zverev is the kind of player that has the ability to do that, to really get on top of his opponent. He has the flatter shots, the big serve, the weapons, but in times past, and in recent times as well, actually, early at the US Open, we've seen him kind of hanging back and not being willing to go after his game in the way he sometimes needs to win matches. So it's been confidence-boosting performances for him recently, and that was a really positive start in round 1. Backed it up with a very different match, a match that he squeaks out actually against Adrian Mannarino of France. 7-6, 6-7, 6-4. He won the opening tiebreak 13-11, narrowly dropped the second, and then did well to regroup and take the third 6-4. That one actually looks like it might be headed for a tiebreak, but he was able to jump when he needed to. Then the win over Stan Wawrinka in the quarterfinals, 6-3, 7-6, a dominant tiebreak to finish. Wawrinka was the number 12 seed. Semi-finals then was his most recent match against Nadal, and this was a high-profile clash because Nadal was going for his first title at this event, has plenty of Masters 1000 titles to his name, but this one hasn't been one of them. It was an interesting match because Nadal, obviously indoor hard courts is his least favorite conditions to play in, because he prefers a higher bouncing surface, something that aids the amount of topspin that he plays with. The ball's traveling a bit flatter in these conditions, it's flying fast, and traditionally that does not favor Nadal. He was able to use his mentality and his grit to get through some tricky moments in his opening matches, but Zverev was not so forgiving. 6-4, 7-5, a straight sets win for Zverev after an opening few points where it looked like he might be in some trouble. He was struggling to read the Nadal serve early on, was put under a little bit of pressure in his first service game, but when he came through that, it felt like a real settler for him. He started to get momentum, and Nadal was frustrated throughout that match just by Zverev's staying power. It's interesting to note because I feel like a lot of people consider Zverev as a player as quite one-dimensional, but he actually showed his tennis IQ and how smart he was during that match. He didn't give Nadal the pace to feed off. He did strip a little bit of the pace off. He went steadier from the baseline and he picked his moments to pounce. He wasn't conservative by any means. He had good numbers to finish with, actually, if I can find them. So 37 winners to Nadal's 17. So a full 20 more winners than Nadal and 18 unforced errors. So that's a clean differential from him. And his attitude and his focus has been really evident and shone through in Paris. His ability to just stay in the moment. There were points there against Nadal where he could have caved. He actually was up a set and a break, looked in pretty secure. It looks in a pretty secure position in the driver's seat in that second set. And then he was broken back for 4-all with a double fault. And we all know that the double fault has been an issue for Zverev in recent months, in recent seasons. It's been the thing that opponents have been able to cotton onto it. You could argue that it really cost him somewhat in that US Open final against Dominic Thiem, where he was 2 sets to love up and looked headed for the victory. And so that was a moment there where he could really have caved in and he could have stopped playing the game that he had been and tactically beating Nadal. But he got back to it. He held pretty easily to stay in the set for 5-all and then was able to break and consolidate to serve out the win. So Zverev will take a lot of confidence from that win. Very calm throughout, very level, didn't overly celebrate when he got the victory either. So this is the attitude of a player who knows his job is not done yet. And I think it's very important for Zverev going into this match with Medvedev to treat Medvedev with the same respect that he treats Nadal. It's easy to stay calm and not get so mad at yourself when you're up against such a big name. You're more forgiving of your own errors, and he needs to make sure that that's the same against Medvedev, because Medvedev, while he's not one of the big three, is bringing a very high level of tennis at the moment, and the openings for Zverev, if Medvedev sustains his form, might be fewer than he's hoping for or expecting. So let's have a look at what Medvedev's done so far. He's only dropped 1 set, which was in his second round. His opener was cut short, though. It was against Kevin Anderson. They were 6-all in the first set, and Anderson gave him the win via retirements. He then had to come from a set down against Alex de Minaur. Now, de Minaur, I feel, is just 1 or 2 steps away from really getting up there with the big dogs, and if he continues on the same trajectory that he's on at the moment, I could see him making the ATP finals next year, winning bigger titles. But he did show that there was something a little bit lacking against Medvedev. He was able to take the game to him in the beginning, and his pace, just how quick he is around the court, enabled him to hang with Medvedev. But I think mentally and physically it was too much at the end. Medvedev, a very steady player and a player that can exhaust you. And we saw a little bit of that exhaustion, I felt, from de Minaur at the end of that match. So it was a 5-7, 6-2, 6-2 win for Medvedev on that occasion. Crushed Diego Schwartzman, who has made the field in London for the ATP finals, deservedly. But 6-3, 6-1 for Medvedev. Similar situation, really. Schwartzman and Nadal both soared on clay, but indoor hard courts do not suit their game so well, and Medvedev took full advantage of that in the quarterfinals. And then he had his win in the semis over Milos Raonic, who has been sidelined by injury so much and held back, but brought a great level to the Paris Masters and didn't give Medvedev very many openings in that match. It was 6-4, 7-6 for Medvedev, but that could have gone the complete other way. Raonic was using the big serve and moving into the forecourt, and Medvedev was having real trouble. In the end, Raonic won 18 of 21 of the net points that he played. So for Medvedev, it really was a case on the return of staying calm, waiting for those second serves, and being smart with his placement of those of those returns, sorry, when he got a look at those second serves. There was a lot of occasions where Medvedev was landing a really nice deep return, often to the feet of Raonic, pushing him back and either forcing the error or getting himself well into the rally. So I felt with Medvedev in that match that he had something that was really important for any match. He had that timing that's needed, that ability to identify the key moments and produce in them, which is so key and can often be the thing that decides matches. Even in the second set, he was broken for the first time as he served for the win, but he regrouped immediately to take it to a tiebreak, and the 3-love lead, 4-love lead that he opened up the tiebreak with was enough of a safety net to see him through when Raonic started bringing the quality. So Medvedev with some great timing in that match and really good patience and ability to wait it out and seize his moments against Raonic. And you might have noticed as I went through that preview and that look at what these two players have done to date in Paris, some similarities. And I'd never really stopped to think about it before, but there are a lot of similarities between these two players. Both of them are taller than your average player. Zverev is 6'6", Medvedev also 6'6", and both of them, as well as having the big serve, are very well balanced and move very well at the baseline, particularly Medvedev, which is how he manages to frustrate so many players and extend so many rallies. But both of them have been moving, I feel, really well in Paris and adjusting to the quick nature of the courts. There have been some long rallies that both of them have been able to hang with, as Zverev showed it in his match against Nadal. Medvedev has shown it in previous matches. That ability to stay so well balanced and to keep up with the pace of the point has been really impressive from both. I think both of them are playing with the same kind of calm throughout their matches as well. That ability to just stay locked in, whatever the situation, whatever the scoreboard, whatever the scenario. And both of them as well, pretty solid off both wings. You'd say that Zverev's backhand is better and looking stronger in Paris, but Zverev is going to have an issue in that I don't think there's any real obvious weakness to aim for with Medvedev. His best bet is to completely stretch him out because he was looking pretty lethal off forehand and backhand in his most recent match. Medvedev, very steady and very difficult to throw off. And the way that Raonic was able to throw him off was coming to the net, was getting those volleys in play, and Medvedev would feel rushed. So I do have the feeling that for Zverev, his best bet at winning this match, the best strategy for him is to serve big, as he did against Nadal. He had a very, very high first serve percentage. Serve big and follow in, because as much as he was steady and impressive against Nadal and had the presence of mind to take that bit of pace off and not give anything to Nadal to feed off, as much as that was impressive from Zverev, he doesn't want to play into Medvedev's hands. Medvedev is so much more at ease in these conditions with that style of play. And I think Zverev needs to be wary of not taking his foot off the gas and not being lulled into that way of playing, which would be more pleasing for Medvedev. Yes, he just managed to come past Raonic in straight sets, but the game style that Raonic was bringing to him was causing him a lot of problems. So if Zverev and team, which includes his new coach, David Ferrer, if they've been paying attention to that match, I think the strategy for Zverev, in contrast to his match against Nadal, will be to move in quickly and to try and keep those points short. And it may well be a race to the forecourt. I think that Medvedev also has the weapons in these conditions to move in and finish things off quickly. So we might not see many openings for either player in service games, and that's where Medvedev's head for the big moments could come into play. But I also don't think you can play down the confidence of Zverev. Of these two players, I think Medvedev will be viewed as the grittier and the better at finding different options and working his way through matches. A lot of people have this view of Zverev as sometimes mentally fragile, and I think the match wins and the confidence that Zverev has coming into this, with the two titles that he's won previously, with his win over Nadal, with his form on this surface, I think that might balance that out a bit. We have Medvedev with the grit and the staying power, but I don't think you can play down the benefits of the confidence that Zverev brings into this match. So there's a lot to look at on both sides, and I think it does really start to balance it out a little bit. The head-to-heads, on the other hand, is pretty unbalanced, actually, in the favor of Zverev, which might be a little cause for concern, because I do feel that when players of this caliber come up against each other, and one of them is so heavily favored, so Zverev is 5-1 up in this head-to-head, is not necessarily a good thing for the leading player, because Medvedev is too good of a player to be trailing by that deficit. And usually that means that the player on the winning side is in for a tough time, because how long does Medvedev hang around before he gets another win? But if we look in more detail at this particular head-to-head, all of their meetings have come on hard courts, but it's been a mix between indoor and outdoor. So Zverev's actually won their only 2 previous indoor hard court meetings, which have sandwiched the others. So it's been their first meeting and their most recent. They first faced off in Russia, actually, home country for Medvedev in St. Petersburg. 6-3, 7-5 was the scoreline for Zverev. And then they faced off in the NATO ATP finals round robin stage last year, where Zverev was defending champion, ultimately lost in the semis to Dominic Thiem. 6-4, 7-6 for Zverev, which is interesting because for me here, Medvedev's shot at winning is to stay focused, stay concentrated, and win the big points. And a 6-4, 7-6 scoreline is very much indicative of Zverev being able to stay focused and win the key points, because that's a close straight setter. And it does indicate that these conditions might favor the game of Zverev. They have faced off 4 other times between those meetings, once in 2017, twice in 2018, and once in 2019. Zverev won 3 of those meetings. So at Washington, D.C., he won in straight sets. ATP Masters 1000 in Miami 2018 was the only clash that went to 3 sets, and Zverev won in a final set tiebreak, so it shows you how close these two can push each other. And then Masters 1000 in Canada went Zverev's way, 6-3, 6-2, so pretty straightforwardly in 2018. But 2019 in Shanghai, that was when Medvedev came through pretty comfortably, 6-4, 6-1. That was when Medvedev was in such a streak of form. He was seriously tough to beat for anyone. He had that form leading up to the US Open, then carried it through the US Open and almost beat Nadal. So that was a red-hot Medvedev. Is Medvedev quite at that level at the moment? I'm not sure. I don't think so. But when he's playing close to his best, he is very difficult to shake off. So 6-4, 6-1 for Medvedev there, but the straight sets win for Zverev more recently. The thing that's really getting in my head here is the numbers have been so good for Medvedev. If we look at some of them from his last match, he's got the 31 winners to the 12 unforced errors, very clean differential, similar to Zverev, but just that bit better. Same on net points as well. He won 9 of 11 against Raonic. Largely it was Raonic getting into the forecourt, but Medvedev very consistent once he was up there and picking his moments to get up there as well to make that a clean number. Zverev, on the other hand, 7 out of 8 net points won against 7 out of 10 even net points won against Nadal. So I think very similar numbers for both, but at the same time, Medvedev edging them. However, they were very different matchups and both of them produced different game styles to come through. The more that I've thought about this, just looking at the numbers, looking at the history, and looking at various things, I've started to lean Medvedev because my instinct coming into this was to go with Zverev, but I feel like Medvedev has more options to shift through. So I've then, having looked at all this, been leaning Medvedev, but I have to keep bringing myself back to the fact that Zverev has the confidence, Zverev has the match wins under his belt. Sure, that has to come to an end at some point, and who better than Medvedev, who I believe is the better returner of the two, and more smart in that respect. Who better than Medvedev to end that streak? But Zverev does look really focused at the moment, and I think that I would be backing him in. I would have to back him in this one. If I did, though, I think I'd have to say Zverev in straights. The thing for me here is if Medvedev does manage to extend the rallies, I think it might swing the match into his favor. Also, if it goes beyond straight sets, it means that Medvedev has been able to get his teeth into the match, which is not a good sign for Zverev. So the more I weigh it up, the more even this seems, but I think that I have to go with my initial instincts that I had before I went really deep into the numbers and say that I'll take Alexander Zverev, the current world number 7, to win this match. But because I'm taking Zverev, I will say in straight sets, because I believe that there is one game plan that outright wins Zverev this clash, and that's him keeping the points shorter and moving into the court. I think if it turns into a baseline battle, then Medvedev has much more opportunity, and if it goes long, then you'd probably favor Medvedev to win. But because I'm banking on Zverev having the confidence and the composure that he showed against Nadal, I'll take Zverev, and I'll have to say in straight sets. So we'll see how that one goes. It has been a really interesting tournament. Obviously, the absence of some key names, Djokovic, Federer, who started to train again, but still a number of players that are in good form, and Zverev and Medvedev have the potential to make this a close clash. It is quite difficult to call what strategies the two of them might come with, but I think it could be a race to the forecourt, and Zverev needs a good serving day. That was another question that I asked myself. Can Zverev serve that well 2 days in a row? But he has started to cancel out the double faults, so I think we give him the benefit of the doubt there. If he doesn't get enough first serves, then Medvedev will be there to capitalize, and that's when he's in serious trouble. But I'll wrap that one up there. This one was a little bit impromptu, but thank you to everyone that tuned in live. At some point, if you didn't manage to catch it live, it will be up on the channel to watch back. So let me know in the comments what you thought of my prediction and the analysis, what you've thought personally of these two players watching this week, what you thought they did well, what you thought they could improve, and who you think will come through in the final on Sunday. So let me know your thoughts. Thank you for tuning in, and I will be back for the ATP finals. Whatever else I do, I should be previewing and predicting the semi-finals and the final at the ATP finals. So if you don't want to miss that, and you're not subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button now so that you can stay up to date. And we will look forward to the ATP finals that has a very promising lineup. But first of all, Paris Masters final to come. Enjoy. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.